Ho, ho, ho.
I think you did that last time.
Well, I also explained how the rules worked to you last time, but I'm going to have to do that again.
Possibly. I think I'll be better.
This is our Films of the Year podcast.
Yay! Yes, it's that time of the year where I realise how many films I haven't seen and how many films you have. So I'm really looking forward to your very considered, highbrow, real mix of blockbuster and a bit of independent, really well thought through, and then me coming in every now and again to go, yeah, and here's my pick at number 8.
You haven't seen a lot of films this year, have you?
I'm really surprised, I honestly felt like I'd gone to the cinema more this year, but something's just not quite right. I got to page 27, 28 of IMDb the other day, when it lists the films that were released in the year.
Yes.
And I still hadn't got 10, never mind sort of 10, 10 plus that I could then whittle down to 10.
There's an issue here as well, because I make a habit of watching all the films that you put on your top 10 of the year.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
I also revealed this information to the Robs from the movie Robcast when I met them for a drink after a few Sam Smiths this summer. And I had to explain how, because there's 2 of them, I made a combined score. So then each of their number ones gets 10 points. The number 2s get 9 points and make a little top 10 of their own.
You revealed part of yourself. That
I revealed part of my
mean
soul.
to.
That I think they shortly left afterwards, and they didn't really. But yes, they took it with the grace that that you'd expect from 2 fine gentlemen. Better than I'd take it anyway. When some weirdo was making scores out of my top 10s of the year.
At least you haven't told them about your spreadsheets.
Oh no, we did.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, you really went full on.
Rob Wallace was impressed because he
Good.
too has a spreadsheet. So
Excellent. Well, see, people do.
Yeah.
Good for you. Okay, we're going to start at 10 and we're going to work our way down to 1.
And if it's something that the other person has higher on the list, we are going to give each other a nod and we'll cover it later on.
I'm fascinated by how this will work this year.
I think there's only 2 things on my list that you've seen, so I think that's going to be... by the sounds of it, by default, they're both going to be on there.
I think that's right. Right, let's go for it. What? Do you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay, so film that I've seen really recently, and I think you've watched me watch part of it as well, because I think I've finished it off while you were sitting doing things on your laptop, and that is Missing.
Oh, yes. Not on my list, but I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, standalone sequel is how I think they've described it.
That makes sense.
Because it's in the same universe as Searching, and it's the same premise in that we as an audience are watching a computer screen that the protagonist is using, and we're seeing them using technology and doing online searches and people making calls. So same universe, but a different story.
I don't think anyone's had the FaceTime app as open as much as the people in these films do, just to necessitate having them on screen in some way. But
what I really liked about this one was that it included, and obviously it would do, that technology has moved on in the few years since Searching's been out. So the Ring doorbell on the screen, the fact that you can now utilise your websites and apps where you can engage services in international jurisdictions and be talking to people in different countries and getting them to do things for you and being able to pay them online as well. I really like how it's moved with the tech.
I mean, if this is the number 10, then I'm quite happy with your list, to be perfectly honest, because I think this is an absolutely fine movie. In another year, could have hit my top 10.
Yeah.
I really, really think just a nice mystery that unfurls itself. I was still guessing at the end. I didn't piece together everything. I think you possibly did a little bit earlier than me. Yeah. But then I think you look for these things.
Yes, I do. And it's part of the game for me. I really enjoy trying to put it all together. Sort of halfway through, something happened within the film and I thought, oh, is it kind of going to do this? And I said to you, I'm not really feeling where it's gone plot wise. And you said to me, like, keep going with it, give it a go. I think you might be surprised. And I was. Yeah. So thank you for that, because I think I might have not gone back to it,
Okay.
or it might have taken some time, and it certainly would have ended up on the list if I hadn't finished it.
I just don't know how Javier only had 2.83 stars out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah, Javier, that character was just such a good character as well. Like, you think if you're watching someone on their screen, it would just be them, but you get to see friends, you get to see people like Javier. I really enjoyed it.
Good.
Your
Good.
number 10.
My number 10 is Bottoms.
Oh, Bottoms. Yeah, you've spoken about that recently.
Yeah. So this is the new film from Emma Siegelman, who did Shiva Baby, stars Rachel Sennett and Ayo Adebiri. They are two losers at the bottom of the social ladder in high school. So they start a fight club as a way to hook up with the cool girls. It's surreal, it's inappropriate, but it's funny. And I did a few of those in the middle of the cinema where you laugh at something and you know that you shouldn't do. But yeah, it's really sweet at times. But yeah, no, I love this, and I think you might even get away with it too.
I might even get away with it. It does sound like it.
Yeah.
And we, you reviewed it fully a couple of episodes ago. So
Yes.
if anyone's interested in Bottoms, go back and listen to Mark's full non-spoiler review.
What's your number 9?
So my number 9 involves, not for the last time on this list, an actor who has had a controversial time of late. So it's Creed 3.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, and I've thought very hard about, because I've got another one coming up, I've thought very hard about, do you include these, do you not? When I'm thinking about Creed 3, because it involves Jonathan Majors, who has just recently been found guilty in a court case of assaulting his girlfriend, it makes you think about the film and the art in a different way, because you're thinking about him in a different way because of the time he's had in the press.
Yeah.
But I think you can say that someone is good at something and has skill at something and can also be doing things that you don't agree with. And that's sort of where I've come out on this one.
I mean, there are plenty of problematic people in music, not even the ones that we ignore now.
Yeah.
Strung through my most recently played, unfortunately. But yes, if you are able to separate the art from the person, I don't have a problem with that.
And you know me, I love a sports movie.
Yes, weirdly.
I know. So obviously this is the third in the Creed saga, moving on from Rocky. It's Michael B. Jordan playing Adonis, I need to say Apollo, Adonis Creed, and Jonathan Majors, like I say, coming out as the villain. And he does play, this is why I'm couching it in those terms to begin with. He does play an excellent villain. He makes you really feel very unnerved and cautious around him, but then also you have sympathy for perhaps what he's gone through in his childhood. So it's not just your big bad that perhaps you get in other movies where the opponent in the boxing ring doesn't really get any time, and all you know is that perhaps they're from a different country and we don't like that country. That's kind of how the film sets it up,
Yeah.
So I really appreciated the rivalry between the two men. There were still problems with this. Tessa Thompson, bless her, gets very little to do, and I think she's really wasted. But it has some fantastic directorial shots. Michael B. Jordan's doing the directing this time round.
Yeah.
And for all of its flaws, and I could pick it and pick it and pick it. For all of its flaws, I just really enjoy being in that world and being in the world of sport and people who are excellent at sport. People who can do a bloomin' good montage of them pulling trucks. That's what I want to see.
Still ludicrous that he got the world title shot, but there we go.
What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Infinity Pool.
Right, so Infinity Pool is a film that I think, in my brain, I'm thinking, oh, this is quite arty and quite controversial.
So
am I right?
Yeah, it's Brandon Cronenberg.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Follow up to Possessor Uncut, I think it's called. Stars Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, who's having a hell of a couple of years. This is the story of a writer and his wife who are on an exclusive, all-inclusive break on a fictional island. They meet someone who's a big fan of his. They have a few drinks and they decide to borrow a car and leave the resort, which is strictly forbidden. When they're there, they have some fun, but then they get in an accident and they have to deal with the island's local police force. I'm going to leave my description of it there because shit happens. I knew nothing about this, and boy, did I not see what was coming. This goes all over the place, and it's just a case of sit back and laugh at the fucked upness of it. It has one of the... Well, no, it's not. It's got about 12 of the most weirdest scenes you'll ever see. Yeah, I got a lot out of this. I think it's arty, but it's horror, but it has a point, and it's another one of these look how horrible the rich are, but it has things to say about it, and at the same time it's entertaining, and yeah, I went ooh a few times during it, so I take that as a compliment.
Do you want to know my number 8? Is that what we're up to?
I mean, that's what
is that
how
the
we
next
play this
bit?
game.
Yeah. Well, you know me forgetting the rules. My number 8 is Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The new, or the latest at least, M. Night Shyamalan with twists and turns and moral quandaries, and a brilliant performance by Dave Bautista. And that's what I remember out of it. So many things that I think a lot of people would go, what? And also, really? But I just went along for the ride. I wasn't entirely convinced at certain bits, but go along with it. A brilliant performance. I mean, Dave Bautista
Really seemed like a coming of age from Dave.
Actor.
Big Dave.
Big Dave. Like, he's really showing other wrestlers how you don't just have to be an action just because you've got a big body and you're a presence. He shows such vulnerability in this film, and also that idea of, you can judge a book by its cover, but then are you reading it wrong? And it moves so much in that film between you thinking, oh, he's the worst person ever, to, oh, actually, I think I might have got this wrong. And that, he just plays it beautifully, and I really think he's just a brilliant actor.
Yeah, I mean, I really think he'll be getting better roles after this. Obviously, he was in
Blade Runner 2049,
which was
a very
didn't
small
have a lot
part,
to do.
But yeah,
the Bond film, which
was just three-dimensional, no, two-dimensional.
Yeah, and he was in that film where Final Score, where it was Die Hard, but in a football stadium.
Yeah, I'd love to see what's going. Obviously, he's done all the Guardians films, which I also think is a brilliant performance and a real representation of neurodiversity on screen. I'd love to see what he's doing next. I think he's just got a great career ahead of him, and I'm really excited for what's happening. So yeah, I just loved it. I wrote in my notes, all a bit ridiculous, but I went along for the ride.
And I think it prompted some really interesting moral debates on the podcast.
Yeah,
to blow our own trumpet.
Yeah. I've been back weirdly. I've been back and listened to that episode a few times now. I think I was listening for something else, and I've ended up listening to that review quite a bit because it's difficult to say this, but we were quite funny, and saying that on your own podcast.
I'm not having that.
No, I know you're not. You're like, cut that. But yeah, we were quite. I think we were having a good laugh about it, and also we were really getting into, like you say, the moral questions. So yeah, I really enjoyed that episode and that review.
So I think every year there is something on my list that I think if someone just came across it and they got just so far and they were a big fan of films, they would listen to it, I'd name a film and they'd just turn off.
Right.
And we've reached that point in my
list. Here we go. Ready?
My number 8, which I think is a better film than any of the good films that you've seen this year, that you've mentioned so far, is A Man Called Otto.
A Man Called... You know what? Every time you're saying, I'm having to think about these ones, because obviously I haven't seen this one either. Does this involve Tom Hanks?
Yes, this is Tom Hanks starring. It's Mark Foster, who did Quantum of Solace and World War Z. Tom Hanks plays a grumpy widower who lives in this small, almost gated off community. He is annoyed by all his neighbours. He is a stickler for the rules. I hate to say who he reminds me of.
I was just about to say, you're looking at me.
Then a young Spanish family move next door to him, and what do you know? They come into his life and change his world.
See, this sounds incredibly sentimental and a little bit throwaway, and yet you've put this in your.
I don't know why this is. I don't know why this affected me so much, but I've never cried so much in a cinema. I was in balls of tears. I don't know if I was hungover. I don't know if I was tired. But this is a film about grief. It's also a film about community as well. The book this is from a from a Swedish book originally, and it was originally made as a Swedish film, which was written before COVID. But this feels very much a post-COVID movie because it's talking about how when we all work together, we can get over anything. Yeah, I've never cried so much. I loved this film. I loved it from start to finish. Anytime a new character came along, I cried again. It's a really it's a little bit. I think we just write it off as good as it gets, light, because it's a grumpy old man who gets charmed by someone who's come into their life. But I think it has a lot more to say about getting over grief, and there's really dark moments in this. Yeah, I think it pays off. And somehow it works.
Fab. I would not have seen that coming.
No, me neither.
My number 7 involves the second of my controversial actors of the list, in Ezra Miller, because it's The Flash.
Yes, I thought that might be the case when you said it earlier.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. Yes, there were problems with it, but my main thing was not around Miller and not around the character of The Flash. I just loved seeing Michael Keaton back on screen as Batman. You know, the elderly Batman, throwing the lines out from, you know, the Burton Batman films. There was something about that from my childhood that just sort of came back, and it wasn't done in a way that I felt cringeworthy or uncomfortable. I just felt he was having a good time, so I had a good time. I also really liked the actor who played Supergirl, whose name I wrote down. I think it's Sasha. Yeah, Sasha Cal or Callie. It's Calle.
It's Kal-El.
It's yeah. Well, I was about to do that one. They were only on screen for a short period, but I really felt a connection to that character and real depth to that character, and I wanted to see more.
I wish they'd had less of her in the trailer. But yes,
yeah, agreed. I did feel, I'm going to critiquing it now, but I did feel that some of the visual effects, you know, the people behind the visual effects perhaps hadn't been given enough time to complete some of them. But for all of these things all put together, again, I just had a good time with it. I sort of went with it. And I think, you know, there's been so much written and spoken about DC and about, you know, this is the end of one era, the beginning of another, and they're going to do all sorts of different things to it. And actually, these characters aren't going to be here anymore. They're going to be played by someone else. And I went into it thinking, what is this going to be? But actually, I think if you put all of that aside and you look at it objectively, you know, how did I feel when I was in the cinema? And that's mainly where my list comes from. Like, what did I feel when I was there? That's why it's, you know, sort of in the middle of my list, because I just remember having a good time with it.
The good news is that I've seen all your films so far, so I've got absolutely zero homework to pick up.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I don't think you will. I really don't think you will. Are we at 6?
We're at number 7.
Oh, we're at 7?
Yes.
So I've done number 7. Here we go. I've done number 7, so you have to do number 7.
That's correct.
How the rules work. There we go.
I think you're going to be speaking again quite soon.
Go on then.
Because my number 7 is Saltburn.
Yes. I will be speaking again.
Okay. Right. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is Barbie.
Okay. Well, my number 6 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, because we're going to have to talk about that one later.
Yeah.
So for me, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is the best use of the multiverse in superhero movies. The sheer ambition of this as an animated project is just phenomenal. I think it looks amazing. It's smart. It's funny. It's dramatic. Brilliant voice performances from Sharmik Moore and Haley Steinfeld. Just the balls of the directors. Like I think I said at the time, there are people, you know, there are a frame every 5 minutes that you could just put on a wall and it would be art. It looks beautiful. The styling of having every single multiverse a slightly different style of drawing, and just the use of just humor in this, of knowing humor, is just something that's so underrated for these films. I think a lot of the Marvel films recently have been pretty humorless, and this is absolutely, the other side of the coin. I can't wait for part 3, whenever that may come.
I need to get into this because I have not watched the first one. Obviously, not seen the sequel. I need to do it because you talk about it so passionately, and obviously other people do. It gets 5 stars across the board. It's something that I need to just find in my mind to watch an animated film, and it's just a thing for me. I don't know what it is. I just need to get my brain in gear and go, right, okay, today I'm going to watch an animated film, and here we go.
It's really worth it. It's just excellent storytelling. Ignore the fact that it's animated.
Yes.
You will not even think about it 5 minutes in because it's just good filmmaking, good storytelling. Your number 5?
My number 5's Oppenheimer.
Okay, not on my list.
Not on your list?
No,
That's interesting.
No.
I know we came out and we were pretty, not harsh, but we were not sort of screaming, oh my God, this is the most amazing film Nolan's ever done.
I was harsh on it.
I think it's just sat with me a bit. I think I've thought about it a lot since coming out of the cinema. And whilst I have absolutely no desire to watch it again, I feel like I've had an experience that I really respect. And that's the feeling I get from it. Is that I can remember scenes. I can almost like, not just like flashes of scenes, but I can remember full scenes. So I must have been really, really immersed in it to almost have it playing in my mind. I can play it like a video, and I can see full scenes of them setting up the bomb and not even like the big things, courtroom scenes and scenes in rooms. I've also really come to respect Emily Blunt's performance in the film as well, and really think about Emily Blunt's performance. She, for my liking, she doesn't get enough to do, but I've listened to Emily Blunt talking about how she came to the role of Kitty Oppenheimer and the depth of that character work, and I think you can feel that on the screen, and it sort of stayed with me a lot of that work that she did. And that's why it's so high up on my list. It's not because I love the film. Like, Inception was on a little while ago, and it was partway through, and I just sat and watched it for the rest of the night. And I wouldn't do that with Oppenheimer. I know I wouldn't if it came on.
Yeah.
I'd have to sit and go, right, I'm watching Oppenheimer tonight, and for a reason I'm probably analysing it or something like that. It wouldn't be something I put on to enjoy, if that makes sense. And so that makes me feel like, what's it doing up so high in the list? But it's because of the level of craftsmanship and the respect I feel for the film.
For me, the first 2 acts were excellent. It then climaxed and told a story that I just wasn't as interested in as the previous 2 hours that I'd been sat there. So yeah, I understand why people love this. It wasn't for me, but yeah, I understand it's an excellently made film, but it just it left me a little bit cold in the end because the ending just was too drawn out and not the story I was interested in seeing.
Fair enough.
My number 5 is a film that I've seen, probably the most recent film I've seen.
Okay, what's that then?
It's Wonka.
So many people are talking about Wonka. Who knew this was going to happen? I had this written off.
I fucking didn't, I'll tell you that.
What do you mean, like, when you saw it coming out?
Oh, I hated the idea of an origin story of Willy Wonka.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I'll say now, I don't think that there is any part of this which is related to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Okay.
This is not an origin story of Willy Wonka, but what this is a fucking fun film. Family, musical entertainment. I'm not the biggest fan of Timothée Chalamet. I think he's really good in Call Me By Your Name. I think other things I've seen him in, he's left me a little bit cold. I feel I'm probably about 20 years too late to actually to get on the Chalamet train. But he is really charming. He's not the best singer in the world, but he is captivating on screen in this in a way that I didn't see coming. It's just a delight. I was sat with a big grin on my face, and the songs had I think the songs are good. I've listened to them a lot of the time afterwards. And
Written by Neil Hannon, I
yes,
hear. From
absolutely.
Divine Comedy.
Yeah, always a plus point.
Always a plus.
As played at our wedding.
Absolutely.
It's written by Simon Farnaby from Ghosts, so there are loads of cameos of British actors, which is just a lot of fun. It's not just, you get the normal ones. You get like Matt Lucas and Rowan Atkinson and things like that. But you also get like the cast of Ghosts.
Okay.
You get Raki Thacker from Sex Education, the teacher.
Yeah.
Who is absolutely trading down when she hooks up with the other teacher.
I don't think so.
I
think
love
they're
her.
a match made in heaven.
I love her.
I know you do.
Yeah,
Who knew this would be on your list?
Like I did not see this
year?
coming. It might just be the much of a surprise, but look, this is the directed by Paul King, who did Paddington 2 and Paddington 1. Just wanted to do them that way. So look, he's 3 for 3 on these films.
Yeah.
Like, they are all an absolute delight. They're all absolutely charming, and you just sit there and just be won over by just how nice they are. Still don't explain how Wonka becomes a grumpy old weirdo for the thing film, but I look forward to Wonka 2 being how fucked up he gets and everything going wrong for him. That'll be fun too. What's your number 4?
It's The Creator. Gareth Edwards, The Creator.
Wow.
Yep.
Nowhere near my list.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But it's fine because that's how we came out with it, wasn't
Yeah.
it? When we talked about it in the original review a couple of episodes ago, I was very much for. You were very much sort of in. I think you respected the vision, but didn't feel the story as much as I did.
Correct.
I just loved it. I love the idea of an original film, of a film that, and also like original sci-fi as well, which pays homage to other great sci-fi and also, war films like Apocalypse Now. Pays homage to those, but didn't make me think, oh, we're just remaking this film or we're just playing the best hits of, Alien. I love the way it looked. I like the way things felt real, even though you're dealing with high tech. Some of the story and the plot lines touched me sort of emotionally.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was something that I really wanted to get behind because, the people involved have created something new. They've, not gone for huge budgets, and I think it was a real labour of love. You can sort of see that on the screen. Of course, there are things that you can kind of go, oh, well, what about that? And what about that? But for me, I just came away feeling very joyful about where cinema was going. When I think about this film, I just have good vibes about cinema when I go, oh, I'd like some more of that, please, in my cinema screening.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal piece of filmmaking. I think I have issues with pretty much every single part of the plot. Okay. But yeah, I think it's a very well made film, especially when you understand the budget, but you can't review it based on what the budget is. Like,
no, and that's not what, if it was terrible, if I really didn't like the story, if I had major issues with the way that it looked, I would not, that's not what I'm coming out at. I think it's just part of the story for me. Part of the emotional attachment is thinking this hasn't just had billions of pounds thrown at it on the latest sequel, or it's so rare now that you get someone who just writes a new story. That's what I like
totally
about
agree.
it.
I totally agree.
And I liked all the questions about AI, which is obviously at the centre of it. I really like that at the moment.
Okay.
Yep.
My number 4 is Rylan.
Not Rylan.
No.
As in the DJ and former pop. Was he in Pop Idol?
No, he was in X Factor.
Oh, he was X Factor.
Yeah, he was in X Factor.
Rye-Lane. R-Y-E. Lane.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Have you heard of this?
I have. Independent film?
Yeah, it's a British independent film. This is the debut film by Rain Allen Miller. It stars David Johnson, who was in Industry, the BBC.
I never saw that, but I've heard good things about it.
And Vivian Oprah, who was in Class, the Doctor Who spin-off.
Oh, right, I do remember that.
Many moons ago.
It was like the Sarah Jane mysteries or something like that, wasn't it?
This is two people who are both getting over separate breakups. meet by chance and spend the day walking around London together, just connecting, getting adventures. You know how much I love Before Sunrise, and this is something that will always be compared to Before Sunrise, just because it's two people
in a
meeting.
day. Yes, of course.
But this is phenomenal young black English filmmaking, to the point where I had to pause it a couple of times just to understand what some of the slang meant, because which made me feel fucking old.
You're really old now.
Yeah, but I am, so that's the reason why. Look, this is a beautiful film. It's funny. It goes off on tangents. They get in adventures. It's on Disney Plus, I think it is.
Okay.
It was bought by Searchlight after.
Like Fox Searchlight.
It's not called Fox Searchlight anymore.
See, that's why I'm old.
Yes, but it's a brilliant bit of filmmaking. It's you really warm to these characters, and it's just a really, really good bit of filmmaking. I'm so glad that this is a lovely British film that's really, really worked for me this year. So it's really underseen. So if you've got Disney Plus, and loads of people do, just watch it. It's about 80 minutes long as well, which is
brilliant.
Perfect. Doesn't
Lovely.
stick around.
That's what you need.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, lovely. I hope more people watch it because it's on, an accessible streaming service.
I hope more people on this couch watch it, but
yeah.
I think
one day.
I think you'd get something out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure would. Would.
What's your number 3?
My number 3 is A Haunting in Venice. We're getting to the good stuff.
We've left the good stuff a long way behind.
Ken Branagh does Poirot.
I'm glad you enjoyed this. Other opinions are available. See podcast.
I loved it.
See the podcast review that we did.
I just really, really liked it. A murder mystery. Obviously, it's got ghosts in, which terrify me, but it was done to an extent that I could close my eyes at certain points and still then get on and watch the film. I just really, really liked it. I think it was because I didn't know the story. Like, I know all the Poirots. I know my Agatha Christie's pretty well, but I don't know this one. I mean, when I say I know my Agatha Christie's pretty well, I know 3 films. I know A Death on the Nile, Evil Under the Sun, and The One on the Train, essentially, but from the 1970s.
What about The Mirror Cracked? Is that?
The Mirror Cracked. I love The Mirror Cracked as well. I
know these better than you. I know you better than you.
The Mysterious Affair at Styles. Should we just go on listing them?
Is that Style the guy from Teen Wolf?
No. My favourite character in Teen Wolf, Styles.
Yes.
That's wrong. Yeah, so I didn't know what was going to happen going into it. I really loved the setting of Venice. I really liked the cast that they pulled together.
The 4 minutes they were in Venice.
Stop it. And I like the setting that, they're in this big haunted house, essentially, and with lots of big rooms, and it reminded me of sort of Clue and other films of the time. There's rain pounding outside, the wind is howling, and there's a mystery at the centre of it. Some really dark scenes because Branagh's directing, and he's sort of like doing all these what I learned were called Dutch angles, where everything's skew whiff, as I would call it, a little bit askew.
Yes, it's like a.
So you're
Batman.
like on a boat, and you're like twisting.
It's like a
and
60s Batman when they go into the baddie's lair.
So I just really enjoyed it, but some really dark scenery and dark, especially around kids, haunting little kids that run around rooms and laugh and that sort of stuff. Terrifying. So yeah, I just really, really liked it. I know it's not perfect. I know that, the storyline things, and certain people get more time than others, and you could see where it was coming from a mile off once you sort of put a few things together. But I really liked it. And I remember I was sat in the Tyneside Cinema in Newcastle, and there was about 2-3 other people in there with me, mostly sort of single people just sat by themselves, and I just felt in the room it was just like a really good cinematic experience. Everyone was very polite and very respectful of the film, and I just remember sitting there going, this is lovely. This is also closing my eyes every now and again when the scary bits came on.
Wish I had to close my eyes.
I know it's not for you. That's fine. That's okay. You've got Infinity Pool on your list.
Yes, which is you'll be closing your eyes at that. I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Number 2.
No.
No.
Number 3.
Oh, we're number 3. Oh, my number 3's been. So it's
Yes.
your number 3 now.
Yes.
Yeah. every year.
And my number 3 is Barbie.
Oh, okay. Right. So we can talk about it together.
We can. I mean, what else needs to be said about this? Really?
Oh, I don't know. We could try.
I mean, Barbie questions
a
our
go.
existence in Barbie Land, leading to her visiting the real world.
Yeah. You were singing "I'm Just Ken" today.
Was I?
Yeah.
I
You were.
don't. Was I?
Yeah, you were. You were just singing it.
I was.
You were tootling around the living room, and I was like, "What's it?" And I was like, and you were just, "I'm just," and I was like, "Oh, right, okay." I think you were listening to another podcast that was probably counting down their films of the year, and maybe they'd mentioned it.
Yes, because I need to listen to them all and get Film Spotting release their films of the year, so and I needed to go on and get all the consensus picks and then add them to my list.
Oh, God.
Look, you knew this when you married me.
I know, it's true. It's true.
This isn't a perfect film, in the way of Haunted in Venice, but
Very
I
similar.
think the final act kind of drifts off course. But I went to see this, the first showing, took a day off work, planned to go see Oppenheimer, and halfway through just said, I'm going to have to come home because I cannot do Oppenheimer justice.
Definitely.
After sitting through this. The fucking balls on Greta Gerwig to pitch this, get away with it.
Yep.
Be able to make her film on this. Like, fair fuck. Like, I think it's just one of the most amazing pieces of business is getting this through the studio system and onto a screen. How much did we all roll our eyes? Like, more so than Wonka, like when someone said there's a Barbie movie coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fair play, she made it into a feminist
And a feminist film that people really got behind. So the busiest I've seen the cinema, and obviously I've not been that much, but the busiest I've seen the cinema when I've been this year was Barbie. And it was men and women, and everyone was there. It was not just women going to see Barbie.
Yeah.
You really felt, I really felt, because I was worried it was going to be a bit leery, because the cinema was doing like special cocktails, and there was like there's such a big buzz around it, and I thought, oh, is this just going to be people chucking popcorn up in the air and being silly? And there were some younger people in the audience, but there was also some older, it's like middle-aged people, but often the worst, our age, like all a bit giddy, and
Yeah.
and I'm sat on my own near the front, and I'm thinking, what am I going to have? And actually, it was just a joyful audience, people laughing, people whooping at various moments,
Yeah.
but not disrespectful and not sort of upsetting other people, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So it was a really nice cinema going experience, and you really felt that people were behind the messages of the film, which I found quite moving at times, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. It's made shitloads of money.
Yeah.
The problem is that I feel studios may take the wrong lesson from this. But I really hope they take that if you get a filmmaker who has a vision and allow them to just play with the entire theme of a property. If we're going to get these toy films, let's at least do them interesting.
Do something different with
Don't
it.
do battleships. Do this. It's it's the third best film of the year for me. So
yeah, not so high up for me, because there was some of the messaging towards the end that I felt was a bit confused, particularly around Ken and around the men as depicted in the film. And yeah, there were certain bits of it I was just like, oh, I'm not quite sure what you mean to say here, and I'm not sure if I'm on the same page as what is, it confused me a little bit. And originally, when I was putting my list together, Barbie wasn't even on my list, because I there was something about it that just hadn't worked. And then the more I thought about it, the more I think what was happening was I was reacting in the way that I do to when something is really mega popular, I automatically want to run and hide from it.
Yep, you do that.
Yep, I do that. And so I'm sort of putting my hands up in the air and going, you know what? I absolutely should have this film on my list. I enjoyed the cinema experience. I enjoyed what was being said. I love the songs, and I feel great happiness that it's in the world for young women in particular.
Yeah.
And saying things. I mean, there's things that are said about women once, you know, they reach certain stages in life as well, and that whole thing of, you know, if you have a kid, you do it, if you don't, I mean, you know, all of those things, all of the problems that women face that really resonated. And so I've had to step my madness to one side of like, well, everyone loves it, so I'll just leave it off the list and pop it nicely in the middle.
Your number 2?
My number 2 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Wow.
Wait, why wow?
I'm surprised at some of these picks. So I don't think this is anywhere near like the quality of the other ones, but I thought there are other films that you had seen that you would have had on this list.
I'm interested to hear what those are, because maybe I have missed those.
No, look, there's nothing worse you can do than forgetting something in a top 10 list.
See our earlier episode of the top 10 TV shows of the year.
Yes.
Yeah, I just love it. I mean, I love the Mission Impossible films. I felt this was a return to form after some of the other ones where everything's got a bit big and nuclear, and I know you're looking at, I can just see you looking at me going, oh, everything got a bit big, did it, for Dead Reckoning Part 1? But I love the stunts. I love Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt, so much so, you know, Ethan, it was on the list of names to name our kids purely because of Mission Impossible. Like, I wanted that spirit of adventure. It's like, when I say it, it just sounds ridiculous, but I just love it because I love that character. I love the character of Ethan Hunt. And I really love the camaraderie between the people. I love the filmmaking. I think it's absolutely batshit, the fact that they just go and film things and they don't know how it's going to fit into the rest of the film or what the story's actually going to be. But they film like the big action pieces and then they work it all out. It just like that would just I can't bear the idea of that. In terms of, you know, organisation.
Some might say that was a problem.
Yeah, I know. And I can see it. I look at it as, how do I feel when I'm in the cinema? Well, this is what I want. I want Tom Cruise doing the mad things. I want, you know, the women that he's got involved in these are like Hayley. I can't remember her surname. Is it Atwell?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
Hayley
it
Atwell.
is.
I'll just call her Hayley and see if I can get away with it. Hayley Atwell doing these drive-ins, you know, and the dialogue and the sharpness and the character, and I just love it. I just love being in that world with that team. And it doesn't really matter what's going on with, like, you know, oh, a villain's doing something. What are they doing? Can't really remember. Just being with those people and seeing them sort out the mission, you know, do the mission.
How easy is the mission?
For me, it's really, really not very easy. It's quite hard. It's mission quite hard.
Mission quite hard.
Dead Reckoning Part 1. I don't know if they're going to call it Dead Reckoning Part 2. I think they're going to change it or something. I'm sure on a couple of podcasts and maybe a couple of magazines I'd read that there was some suggestion that it was maybe a bit clunky. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. So let's see when the next one comes out. Exciting. Good. I love a Mission Impossible film. I really enjoyed this.
I'm just looking up the name of a film that I thought
2.
would be on your list.
Okay.
It isn't.
Oh no. I'm a bit scared now.
It might be that you've thought about it.
I'm a bit scared.
Anyway,
I'll see.
We'll see what the surprise number 1 is. The film that we've already mentioned is on your list.
Yeah.
My number 2 is Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. I mean, you say lovely.
Yeah, I know.
You took the piss out of me, somewhat rotten.
I know, that's really bad as well. I do feel really quite awful for that because films shouldn't be gendered, and I wouldn't normally do that. It just seemed like an odd pick for you. It just because you didn't know the book.
Just look how many boy films you've got on your list.
Stop it.
Well, that's essentially what you did to me.
I know I did, but it wasn't really about that. It was more, I think it was my personal sort of like, not view, but what I took from sort of the trailers and the things that this was very much targeted at young women, teenage girls.
Yeah.
Which is why I thought it was unusual that you were really, really wanting to go and see it.
Well, I hope that the 60-year-old man who was the only other person in the cinema felt as weird watching this as I did after having the piss taken out of him by his wife. But so this is the adaptation of the Judy Blume story. It's directed by Kelly Freeman Craig, who did Edge of 17, which is something that I really want to catch up with. Stars Abby Ryder Fortson as Fortson, I think it is, who was in the Ant-Man movies. He was
really?
the daughter until he got dusted. And
Yeah.
This follows a 10-year-old girl as she moves from the city to the suburbs and has to deal with everything changing in her life, both around her friends, her surroundings. There are parts of religion in her life that's changing, and obviously her body as well. You haven't read the book, have you?
No, it just wasn't my cup of tea at the time. I was reading point horror.
Oh, God. Yeah, this is a really, really beautiful film. You don't have to be part of the target audience, it should be said, because I got a lot out of this. I understood the social dynamics. I understood the things that happen when you're a teenager, that things change, that you meet new people, the people who you take against in class that just are just getting on with their shit, but for some reason you and your friends really dislike them. This is an absolutely beautiful film, and it's probably underseen, judging by, I've not heard many people talk about it outside of like podcasts and film reviews and things like that. Not many people in the real world. I love this. I think you would really enjoy this as well, because it's really sweet. It's not perfect. There is a couple of things where storylines just go away for a little bit and then come back and stuff.
Okay.
So some ways it's a little bit the editing I think could be a little bit tighter just to make things flow a little bit better. But yeah, otherwise, highest marks from me. I think this is phenomenal and I love it.
Your list is incredibly diverse and very well thought through.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, what's your number one in the Saltburn list?
There is no other film for me this year than Saltburn. I knew watching the trailer that it was probably something for me. Great big mad font. I love a big mad font across, like where it just flashes up on the screen. Posh people in a stately home sitting out in the garden while the camera swings round them, playing music from the mid-2000s. I mean, it just had me written all over it. And then I went to see it. And even in a terrible cinema experience where the lights were left on, where, it was just so dark as well. Like, obviously the lights were on, so it was light, but the screening itself, the projection was too dark. At no point in time did I think, I'm going to get up and tell someone about this, because I was so entranced with the film. I love the themes of, working class or lower middle class people going to somewhere where it's just full of very rich, very privileged people, and the way that they have to navigate that. I love the idea of, the fish out of water, someone having to go to someone's home and that home turning out to be like a stately home, and seeing how the dynamics work within that home. I just love the direction. It really, really reminds me of when I fell in love with Marie Antoinette, Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette. Very similar in that, very musical. So in Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette, it's anachronistic because you've got, New Order playing while they're dancing and doing the that, but also, the colours and the people and the politics and the quick editing and going off plot-wise into some strange and wonderful places, which Saltburn certainly does. I just really liked it, and I love the fact that Emerald Fennell just goes for it. In at least 3 scenes, she just goes, let's do this then. And for some people that might be a bit of a turn off. They might go, a bit too far, or what is this about? But for me, as someone sitting in the cinema, I was like, I'm in, let's do it for longer than, maybe a flicker of a second on the screen. Let's just stay with it and see where we're at. I love the fact that I was weighing up people's intentions and motivations, the majority of the way through, that I could see that some people, you could perhaps see them as, it's because they are posh and privileged and they've got all this money and they're cutting. You could see them as these terrible people, but at the same time, there's so many factors to them. Yeah, I just loved it. And I've listened to the soundtrack ever since you reminded me that one of the first songs played in the film is The Cheeky Girls Have a Cheeky Christmas, which I forgot existed. And so I went and looked that up and then was like, oh God, of course. I love the soundtrack. I mean, it starts with
that song, which is clearly one of the greatest songs ever written.
Well, obviously. And you know that the Cheeky Girls' mum wrote all their songs. It's one of the best facts about the Cheeky Girls that I have.
Cheeky Girl's mum lives in the Byker Wall.
She does.
I mean, I don't know if that's true. A taxi driver once told me that.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking, why do I know that? And that's because you've told me that a taxi driver told you that. And we went past the Byker Wall once and we're like, do you think Mrs. Cheeky is in there? Madam Cheeky.
I think Lambert Erpic ever visited the Byker Wall.
The Byker Wall, who knew? Yeah.
That's a tangent, isn't it?
It is a tangent. Can I go back to talking about the music?
You can.
So right at the beginning of the film, it opens with Zadok the priest, Handel's Zadok the priest, which is a you hear it at coronations or at big state occasions. And so you've got sort of like this grand old music, big coronation music with lots of organs, and then you go into the Cheeky Girls, and then you go into a block party. But actually the original soundtrack is just beautiful. There's a scene called Felix Amica, which I listen to on repeat. I just put it on repeat because it's all instrumental, and it's used in a montage at the beginning of the film where two characters are getting to know each other and really enjoying each other's company, and it's got that sort of mid-2000s electronic vibe to it, but also marries in with the older, more traditional, almost like organ music. It's very uplifting, but it's also the sort of thing that I could imagine myself putting on and just writing to, and that goes all the way through the soundtrack. So I'm just completely obsessed by it. It's come out on Amazon Prime today, and I'm having to hold back from just sitting and watching it over and over, because I'm scared now that I'm going to watch it again and I'm not going to be as into it as my brain tells me that I am. So I'm going to leave it for a while and then watch it. But I don't think it's the sort of film that I could watch. A bit like Marie Antoinette, I can only watch that every couple of years because it takes me to a different, it's so sensorially, it does something to my brain. And I think it comes along once in a blue moon for me, that something just clicks, film just clicks, and it starts to become part of my DNA and part of my sort of list, my top list of all time. Follow that.
I'm just surprised at where the hell Jacob Elordi came from, because I've looked at his credits, and as far as I can tell, he's been in The Kissing Booth and The Kissing Booth 2. Now, I'm not saying that I don't expect The Kissing Booth cinematic universe to create high quality stars, but he's going to be Elvis and Priscilla, isn't he?
Elvis,
yeah,
and he's Australian.
Oh,
and what an accent!
Yeah, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful, sort of that rich, lilt, but also trying to be relaxed, sort of that perfect sort of accent of someone who's from a very, very privileged background, but also just trying to talk like a normal. But yeah, do you know what I mean? It's not just cut glass English accent. There's a real character to it, but at no point in time would you go, oh, there's a bit of Australian. It's the character of someone who would wear very posh rugby shirts. Exactly. Yeah, it's the accent of someone. Yeah. Should I do my number one? Could you tell me what you thought of Saltburn first? Because you haven't. Sorry, I didn't get a word in edgeways. I know you said you were going to. I take it you enjoyed it nowhere near as much as me, but you enjoyed it as a. I don't think Emerald Fennell enjoyed it as much as you. Look, I think it was
a good, fun romp.
Mm-hmm.
I think it dies on its arse about 10 minutes from the end.
Okay.
It just seemed like there was a lot of endings. It made the Return of the King look like a swift ending, and parts.
Did it come anywhere near being on sort of your list of I'm not saying
Yes,
it might have been at 10
It was number 7 on my list.
Yes, it was on your list, wasn't it?
Yes.
I've forgotten about that.
I realised you just got on one.
Yeah,
and
I was like,
yeah.
all right, off we go. Right, so it was number 7.
Yes, it was the 7th.
Right, okay.
Yeah, my 7th favourite film. So look,
Oh,
it's
good. Right,
it's high.
yes.
It's
Okay, that's
fucking
better.
high,
I was
yeah.
thinking it might have just been around the 12, but actually you mentioned it to begin with, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great film. I have the same issues with it that I have with Promising Young Woman, in that I think the ending sometimes goes off the edge.
Yeah, and I found difficulties with the ending of Promising Young Woman. I think if my brain switches, I could have difficulties, but I've just gone with it with this one.
There's a plot reveal halfway through, which I spotted coming a mile away, but still, I thought it was so perfectly played for tone and everything like that. Yeah, it's a really, really high recommendation from me. I think it's a 4-star film. So,
I'm sorry, I've forgotten that it was on your list.
Yeah, that was nice, wasn't it? Yeah, glad to see you listening.
I really struggle with this, this whole 10 to 1 thing. What's your number one film?
You know what my number one is.
Do I know what your number one is? Your number one film of the year.
It's the only film I've given 5 stars to on Letterboxd this year.
A complete blank. Go on.
My number one is Past Lives.
Empire's just made that their film of the year as well.
Oh, has it? Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say.
I wish I'd seen it.
This is a beautiful film. Celine Song's directorial debut stars Greta Lee and Tia Yu, who are 2 actors that I wasn't familiar with. The story of Nora, who left Korea as a child, gets back in touch with an old friend, like the kind of person who was like your boyfriend, but when you're 8. So, yeah. Gets in touch with them through Facebook, they chat. They then realise that they're living their lives too close to each other across the sea, so they agree on some distance for a little while. However, he says that he's going to come and visit the USA with work. So can he meet her, she's now moved on, she's now got a husband. And this is the story of him spending a few days in New York and meeting up with her for the first time in, I think it's 20 years or something like that. If you look up Celine Song's life, this is incredibly autobiographical. Like, it's beat for beat. It's like even the places that she moves to in between going to New York and everything like that. Celine Song married a writer. She's a writer herself. She moved to Canada. Then she moved to New York. She met her husband on a writing retreat. Yeah, it's beat for beat. But this spoke to me on a really, really personal level. And it tells me how much I've changed as a person. Because 10, 15 years ago, I'd have been on the side of the star-crossed lovers. I think there's a huge amount of fascination and allure in that one person from school who you never hooked up with properly. And I think that is the beauty of this or would have been for me 10, let's say it, before we met. Now I'm watching this going, they are 2 different people. It's never going to work. And I think the film invites you to make those decisions. You don't have to be totally in on either person's side. It would be really easy for this film to make the husband the bad guy. And it kind of looks like that might happen at some point, but it never does. It's just they get the tone absolutely perfect. And for a film that's largely in a foreign language, even though it's obviously set in the USA, it's largely subtitled. It's not tough to watch. It's of course it's not, but I think this would be quite welcoming for a mainstream audience as well. Obviously, it's obviously not set the box office alight, but for a film that's largely set in a different language, I think it's done out really, really well. And it's obviously, especially with the critics, this is the best film of the year for me. I really think you'd like it. It spoke to me on every level. It's not that dissimilar from Rye Lane in that it's largely 2 people just talking with the husband in the background. It's got one of the most entertaining openings I've ever seen just for getting the mood of the film. It's the opening set in a bar, and it's we see a scene that's set later in the film, but from a very different perspective, and all of a sudden you get exactly what's going on, and the tone and the dynamic of the film. Yeah, highest recommendations. This is virtually a perfect film for me. Can I talk about the films that weren't on your list that I expected?
Yeah, go on. See what I've forgotten.
So I thought that May December might make your list.
Oh, I've real trouble with May December. In the storyline, I found very challenging because of the age difference in the main relationship that's been spoken about, and the fact that one of the people was very, very young.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm not going to go into it in case people haven't seen it, but I found it a very, very uncomfortable watch. I thought the acting was great. I didn't feel particularly bowled over by it.
Okay.
But yeah, I just found the content and the theme hard, and that made it not enjoyable.
Okay. Still,
the
Michael J. Fox documentary.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I liked it as like it was a good documentary, but yeah, it hadn't. Yeah, see, I haven't even thought about it. Have I? I've obviously forgotten what it is. Yeah.
Am I right in thinking you saw Passages?
Yes, I did see Passages. I did, and that is an excellent film. I think if you had seen it, it would definitely be somewhere near your top 10 because of, again, that's something that you really like, and you can see it from your list. You like sort of like a two-hander or a three-hander, very much focused on people's relationships, and that's what Passages is. You've got Ben Whishaw and two other actors whose names I don't know. I only know Ben Whishaw. This is terrible. I don't come off well in
Franz
this.
Rogowski and Adele Exarchopoulos.
Thank you. And they are, relationships between the three of them move throughout, and it a short passage of time as well. Beautifully acted, very atmospheric, some really well... I mean, how do you say this? But some really good sex scenes.
I think you've just said it. Really good sex scenes.
Yeah, just really good. When things look natural and just the way people... You can see the relationship in the scene. There's obviously... This is a film about romance and lust and long-lasting relationship, and then a new relationship, but also not leave it. It's three people, like I say, circling each other and trying to work out what's going on. And actually, the sex is a major part of it. And it was just very, very well done. And I thought really interestingly shot as well. There's a lot of scenes of people's backs rather than... We've just been watching Love Actually today, this afternoon. And obviously there's the bit where... I just say Tim from The Office because I can't remember his name.
Martin Freeman.
Thank you, Martin Freeman. And Joanne... What's Joanne's surname?
Lumley.
No! You know Paige. Who I mean. Paige, thank you. And they're body standing, so there's various scenes where Martin Freeman's cupping Joanne's breasts but talking about the traffic because they're just trying to make conversation. But what they're portraying in that scene is what you would typically see in a sex scene. So they are acting out what the actors will be doing, and it's just very much, we'd like to see where the nipples are, and can you just massage the breasts,
Yes.
And it's really awkward and it's totally unnatural, and it would be if the film was actually being filmed. This is a film, Passages, that it's very realistic and true to life, and you don't get any of that stylized, well, the nipples are going to be here and this is where this is going to be. There's interesting shots that go on. So yeah, I enjoyed it is a funny phrase. Like I was left feeling quite cold at times. I was left feeling quite angry about certain things that were happening, but I didn't have the sense of excitement that a lot of the other films had for me.
Okay. I was just putting it out there just in case.
No, it's in my also rans.
Okay.
Alongside Scream 6. That nearly made it because I do like the Scream
Fucking
films, and I even paid for Scream 6 because I so wanted to see it.
And then it came on Paramount Plus
And
literally about a day later.
About a day later. So yeah,
Yes.
there was my $4.99. Well, I say
Hour.
airline, our $4.99 down the pan. Yeah, I don't feel I've come out of this podcast episode particularly well.
I got an alert from our bank because our direct debit on Sky was different. And I was like, why would that? Oh, fuck yeah, she bought Scream
What
6,
you been
didn't
buying?
she? Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I've just been looking up how long the sex scene is in Infinity Pool. There's a
Oh,
minute,
okay, right,
and
yeah.
it's 5 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
That is very stylized.
Go make a
but
cup of tea.
I
come
found parentpreviews.com, which is
Oh, no.
parents reviewing films
Oh, no.
based on how appropriate they are for a family audience. Overall, D. Violence, D. Sexual content, D-. Profanity, D. Substance use, D. Keith Hawkes is not a fan of Infinity Pool for the kids.
Well, good. What, isn't it an 18 anyway?
Yeah. Well, I think you've wasted your time there, Keith. Just look at the rating.
Go and look at like a PG or something and
Yeah.
then... Right,
Well-
we're done.
Done for the year.
Yeah, fantastic.
We'll be back in the new year.
Yeah, and thanks to everyone for sticking around and hanging out with us this year.
Yes, I mean, both virtually and literally in some cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously we're coming into Christmas, coming into the new year, and then we've got the fun times of all the films that the Americans have been talking about for the last 2 months.
Yeah, we've got the run up to the Oscars.
Yes. How exciting.
Oh, just yes.
We've also got the run up to the Golden Globes as well, if you really want to
yes,
go that far.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but we'll start all over again.
Yes.
Films will come out. We'll be back here next year.
Probably take a long break when we have some family emergencies that we need to.
Probably.
History's
It's
written.
usually- yeah, it
History
usually
repeats
works
itself,
like
doesn't
that.
it? But
It
yeah.
usually works like that.
But seriously, thanks for listening.
And thank you everyone who's been in touch with us this year.
yes.
Like, we've had some lovely messages through, and it really does help. Obviously, we do the podcast like when our child goes to bed, and when he stays there for more than 2 seconds without one of us having to go up and do something there. And we love doing the podcast. We've talked about that a lot, how it really helps us as, just giving us this real sense of being able to just, it's a lovely excuse to just sit down and chat to each other and to talk about the things that we love to talk about, which is telly and film.
Yeah.
And to have people come along for the ride with us is just really lovely. And we really do appreciate it when you drop us a line and you tell us that we're completely wrong. Or as someone did recently, that we said spoonerism or something, didn't we? And one of our listeners, hello Neil, got in touch specifically to tell us what the actual word was. Was it malpropism? Is that what we got wrong?
No, I just got a message out of the blue from Neil that just said, in full capital letters, portmanteau.
Oh, portmanteau. See, I couldn't even remember.
And
It's
this
a
is like
portmanteau.
3 days after we recorded, so I don't tend to listen back that soon. So I'm just like, what the fuck is Neil talking about? And so I went, I missed something. He's like, okay, right, yeah.
But yeah, that to me is just, it makes me smile hugely.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you in 2024.
Ooh,
What was that?
dunno.
I don't know either, love. Sounds like a ghost. Are you thinking about Haunting in Venice?
Always. I'm thinking about how that's 2 hours of my life I'm not getting back. If you want to follow us on social media, if you want to drop us a message of styles of phrases, just send us a message saying, spoonerism or
Portmanteau, darling.
onomatopoeia. You can follow us on Instagram and X at The Honeymoon Pod. And I'm on Letterboxd, which is how I remember the films that I saw this year.
Yeah, very useful.
Unlike TV. We'll see you later.
See you later.